know that we can apply what neuroscientists have learned about our brains to be able to follow God's word so that we can stop living in constant states of anxiety and worry? Come on, it's possible. I refuse to let the enemy steal one more day from me where I'm so anxious that I'm miserable, and it's for nothing because God says we don't have to be. It's possible. God's word doesn't just say, don't be anxious about anything. Don't worry. It also says, in John it says, do not let your heart be troubled. Another translation is agitated, afraid. It says, don't let yourselves be troubled. Don't permit yourselves to be disturbed and agitated and afraid. I don't know about you, but this has been now one of my absolute main goals in my life, to be joyful and happy. Who doesn't want a calm and undisturbed mind and heart? I have wanted that, well, my whole life. I just didn't know what God's word called it. I want a peaceful heart, a calm and undisturbed mind and heart. You're probably saying, well, that sounds great, Kristen. I've tried to do that. I'm not super successful at it. Me neither. But the more I learn about what our brains are capable of, the more I see how God created our brains so that we can do it. He wouldn't tell us and command us to not be afraid and not be troubled and to not be anxious if we weren't able to do that. He's a loving God. And He's our Father. How many of you that are parents don't care if your children are upset? So the more sort of tricks we know to help our brains to relax, the better, because it also, our relaxed body actually tells our brain to relax. But we have to tell it that. It doesn't happen by accident. Even if you're trying to tell it consciously, we're not in danger. We're safe. We're not in danger. Just today mine was. I was saying thoughts like, you know better, Kristen. Oh, I know that what God says to do. My heart, though, was pounding. I was like, dude, my body thinks we're in danger. So that's when it comes in handy to know how to make that stop, so that it's easier to then follow what God says. And so here are some quick, simple, effective sort of brain hacks that you can try in the moment that maybe you haven't heard of yet. My favorite is to touch something cold, like very cold, frozen. I will put my hands in ice water or just in ice. It sounds a little crazy pants, but it gives your brain, it subverts your brain and stops the anxiety. It does. And to try while you get your frontal lobe online to say, I know that I am not in danger. Another good frozen thing that's simple, a bag of vegetables, a frozen bag of vegetables. Put it in your hands, stick it on your head, put it wherever you gotta put it. And I'm saying by of slow breathing truly does help. I mention this in a lot of my videos because I used to think, it doesn't help. But it does, especially if you will breathe out longer than you're breathing in. When you're breathing out, it tells your parasympathetic nervous system, heart that calms you down, to be calm. Naturally, it's supposed to kick in on its own, but those of us who have been anxious for a lot of years, your brain has learned, like that's not what we're doing. We're staying anxious. We're scared. So it helps if you will like breathe in for 4, breathe out for 6. Doesn't have to be an exact count. Try it 4 or 5 times in a row, and you will feel calmer. Another great one, try naming 5 blue things around you, and then 4 things you can touch, 3 things you can hear, 2 things you can smell, and then 1 thing you taste. It tricks your brain. It focuses it on things that you're asking it to do instead of the anxious thoughts. It interrupts the anxiety loop that's going on. That's a habit. Okay, and I had not ever heard this one before, and I love it. Describe yourself like you're a reporter describing the scene. Like I would say, instead of saying, I'm so anxious, I'm so anxious. Here it is again, I don't know what I'm gonna do. Say, we see Kristen sitting in a chair. She's looking out the window. She notices that the breeze is blowing the leaves around. She told me her bra is not one of her favorites. She's looking off into the distance. I think that she might have a zit on her face, but she's covered it up with makeup, I can tell. One more. Anxiety is preparing your body for action. Like it's telling you, we gotta be ready, we gotta run. It's something dangerous. So if you will give it some action, it helps a lot. It gets rid of this is that buildup of the nervous energy in your body that's making you feel crazy. I will pace around, I will go on a walk, I'll just head out the door, start cleaning something, just saying. Anything that's action, if you need something like do some jumping jacks or drop on the ground and try to do a push-up. If you're like me, you'll laugh. You'll be like, this is funny. And that will also distract you. Last one, naming the thought you're having, the problem you're having, takes away some of the strength, the power in your brain. So instead of saying, I'm anxious, I'm always anxious, here I am anxious, try like, this is anxiety. It's visiting me right now. I'm having that anxious feeling. Here it is again. I'm gonna try some things. I'm gonna go stick my head in the freezer, and hopefully it will go away, because it's just passing through. It's not going to be part of my life all the time, because I get to say whether it does or not, and I'm saying it will not. Okay, for real this time, last one. If you will, instead of saying, what am I going to do the rest of the day? What am I going to do for the rest of my life if I'm feeling like this? Ask yourself, what can I do in the next 60 seconds? What am I going to do? Let me try one of these tips. Let me talk to a friend. Let me text somebody. I can do something in the next 60 seconds. Let me try that. This will pass. Those are all things that will help. While that takes care of you, that will help you physically, your body, to move out of the fight, flight, cycle.
Anxiety disorders are an involuntary nervous system response, not a sign that God is mad at you, or that it's a consequence for something you did wrong, or anything to do with your faith or your walk with the Lord. You're trying to get rid of this anxious response, and the God who created you knows your heart and mind, so He knows you're doing this hard work as you try to learn what to do. He knows we're afraid, and He is not judging us. He is full of grace, and He only wants us to know that He's here to comfort us. Psalm 94:19 says, "When the cares of my heart are many, your consolations cheer my soul." I love that one. Disclaimer: I am not a professional therapist or a psychiatrist or a mental health professional, but I will not stop sharing what I've learned as I've walked through and out of the anxiety that I thought I was helpless against. God allowed me to suffer with it so that I can now help others.
Lord, you know that I believe you. I'm going to trust you. You've always taken care of me, and you always will. So help me to trust that you are taking care of me. He gives us the brains. It's tricky, but you got to be tricky.